What is going on, guys? My name is Zora, and welcome back to Amorous. Now, it's been a minute, just a couple months since I last posted an episode of this. I think it's about time we finish Seth, because you guys fucking demand it. Also, what the hell is this? Badges Kobe has collected from going to cons. I don't remember ever seeing that there. Anyway, so you guys really wanted me to finish Seth, so let's finish him real quick. There's only 2 more dates to go. Let's just get those out of the way, and then we don't ever have to worry about this game ever again. Now, there might be a couple updates in the future, but according to a post by one of the developers of this game, that's mostly going to be bug fixes, and it's very unlikely that there's going to be updates to any of the stories. So who knows? Who knows if after I finish Seth, if there will be any more Amorous. But you know, if there is, I guess I'll play it. If there's an update to Sky, I will 100% play it. Any other character, and maybe we'll see. But anyway, let's finish. Let's call. I knew that focusing on his writing was going to eat up Seth's time, but it seemed like forever since I last saw him. No phone calls, no texts, nothing. It was enough to make me question if I hadn't been just confused about the signals. I thought we had a connection. He was certainly interested in me, but this undermined the whole idea. Why else would he just leave me hanging? Maybe he really did just want some temporary company. Kobe was there for me. We even went to the club a couple of nights to see if Seth had shown back up there. Sadly, there was no sign of him. Eventually, I'd given up and just slumped on the couch and lost myself in daytime television. I wasn't normally like this, but putting myself out there only to wind up with nothing, it was a hard thing to just bounce back from. I knew I'd eventually have to pick myself back up, but for now, it felt comfortable just to wallow. Kobe was in the shower, and I had just finished watching the 5th rerun in a row. When there was a knock at the front door, my instinct was to ignore it. I couldn't think of anyone who might be stopping by. A second knock eventually got me off the couch and stumbling towards the door. I half expected it to be some local group doing fundraising. At this point, I was feeling low enough that wolfing down a box of cookies sounded like a good idea. Aura, I'm so glad it was the right house. Seth, what the heck are you doing here? How did you know where I lived? Why didn't you call? Well, the not calling was due me being a scatterbrain. When we parted ways, my head was buzzing with a million ideas. I had to get them out before they drove me crazy. And one of those ideas involved losing my number? Indirectly, yes. I tossed my pants in the wash before I went to bed, like I normally do. I'd forgotten your number was in the pocket, so I started the machine in the morning, and by the time I realized my mistake, all that remained was a soggy lump of paper. Okay, but why didn't you stop by the club or anything? I checked a couple of times and didn't see you. I was cloistered in my apartment, subsisting on delivery food and coffee. In retrospect, it could have been something strange out of a novel I read. It was intense. It just kept pouring out of me. I never thought it was like that. What came out of you? Yeah, I totally missed this game, visual novel game. It has some game aspects, but it's more visual novel. And you still haven't explained how you found my address. I mean, I'm still a little upset you didn't call, but not about this. I think it's just weird. That I could write a whole story about. It was me. I found him for you. Kobe, what? Kobe, thanks again. You're a lifesaver. Last night I overheard him at the bar asking about you. You'd mentioned a cute feline you'd been seeing. You called me cute. Anyway, I mentioned I was your brother. We got to talking for a bit, and I told him how down in the dumps you were lately. I felt terrible about that. I mean, I was a little flattered that you were pinning for me. My cheeks began to flush red as I stammered out a defense. I wasn't pinning, I was just sad, since I hadn't heard from you in so long. I told him that he should drop by today and catch back up with you, maybe get you off the couch for a while. And here I am, groveling on bended knee. I can't tell you how amazing our first time together was. I wouldn't want you to think I was just leaving it at that. First time doing what, huh? Both me and Seth blushed profusely as Kobe began to laugh. You two are way too easy to embarrass. I think I'm liking the idea of Seth and you. Kobe, how about you go make some coffee for all of us? Seth and I need to talk. Alright, I know when I'm no longer needed. You were right about him, he is quite the character. He's my brother, and we have always been there for each other. He does get a little nosy about my personal life sometimes, however, it's good to have someone who cares about you. You still haven't told me what kept you locked up by yourself for so long. It wasn't something bad, was it? Bad? Not in the least. Without another word, he turned away and began digging through the book bag. A moment later, he handed me a pile of papers, all neatly collected and held together with a binded clip. My arms almost sagged at the weight. There it is, all thanks to you and your brilliant inspirational techniques. What is this? I just bit my tongue. I'm still not getting it. It's the story we talked about. I sat down and wrote it, beginning to end. It's true it had been a while, but this was nearly a ream of paper I was holding. The amount of work and time he was suggesting would be mind-boggling. Nevertheless, there it was, a title page and thousands of words that followed. Wow, you must have really been inspired. When you suggested I give you an idea to write, I didn't expect it would completely consume you. I know, I've never been this driven before. Maybe it was your encouragement or your practicality. I just know that when I got home, I was focused like I'd never been before. Honestly, I don't know what to make of any of this. I had mostly thought it was just some playful game like his interview. The pile of papers in my hand suggested otherwise. I want you to read it. Not this very second, of course, but go through the whole thing. And don't worry, no more radio silence from me. Kobe insisted on watching me program your number into my phone, and I won't be losing that anytime soon. That's quite a bit of work. Nothing against what you've accomplished, it's monumental, but that would be way too much to read in one sitting. Again, with the practicality, still, I have even less room to complain than before. I've never been able to sit down and write like that. That said, I'm happy to see you, and I'm not kicking you out. Would you like some brunch or something? I'm sure you could use some home-cooked food after all of that takeout. I was happy to catch up with Seth, even Kobe listening intensely. We had some pancakes, light conversation, and once Kobe had gotten a few pages of Seth's work away from the pile, he insisted we sit down and read the whole thing. It was astounding. The indecisive tone was gone, and there was a confidence to it that I hadn't seen in the snippets he shared with me. I began to feel awkward for having such a profound effect in so little of time. Eventually, once the dishes were cleared, we got to chatting about more than just writing. Is it wise to invite me into your bedroom so soon? Did you have some ulterior motives I was unaware of? Well, no, I mean none that I would act on. I get the feeling there is something else you want to tell me. It isn't all about the writing, don't get me wrong, you've been an amazing inspiration, but I wanted to know if there was something more. Something more? I'm attracted to you. You're attractive, there I said it. Wow, it feels good to get that off my chest. And it's not too bad to hear either. I admit, I'm just baffled. Did you think I was only after you for your writing skills and inquisitive nature? I suppose not. On some deeper level, I've just gotten my signals crossed before and it's not important. It's more important that we're on the same page and that I give you a proper date next time. I look forward to it. Not that I don't enjoy our conversations, but it's nice to be wined and dined as well. Something romantic and intimate would be great. It's a date, or it will be. I'll just need some time to plan. I'm not particularly well versed at this sort of thing. Fair enough, but don't leave me hanging like that again. I only take so much before I'd have to hunt you down and force you to buy me some chocolates. You say that's like it's a bad thing. Still, we don't need to wait to have a good time. Unemployment is still looming large over me, and you seem pretty free today. Is there something you would like to do? This is pretty nice, no? He looked so adorable when his cheeks were flushed. I leaned over to ruffle his ears. So you just want to stay cooped up in someone else's bedroom? Not just someone's, yours specifically. More ulterior motives? If this is all about your plans to keep us in bed, should know about that. I can lock the door so Kobe doesn't barge in. What? No, I mean not quite, but you're enjoying this, aren't you? A little bit, actually, quite a bit. You know, I've never gotten to see your place. I imagine it's quite nice. It's serviceable, but Spartan. I'm afraid I'm not terribly good at the domestic side of things. No time to decorate? Do you not like furniture, or is your glamorous life of writing simply eating up all your free time? You know, add an ing right there. Well, the last few nights it has certainly eaten up all my time, but no, it's just an area where I don't really expend the effort. A home can be very transitory. I suppose that I'm not really attached to my apartment. Being too attached to things can weigh you down, it's true. I know this whole unemployment thing hit me harder than I thought. I'm sure it did. I do still feel bad about that, though I guess I'm a little happy that I got you to come to the club that night. As the two of us got to chatting, it made me realize just how little we really knew about each other. Seth was happy to share, and he brought out some things of my own that I hadn't thought about in a long time. Okay, I know it sounds cliche, but being the only child and having expectations piled on you can be hard in its own way. Some part of me thinks that I'll never be anything but a disappointing footnote for my parents. Can I just say Amorous is the most kinda like unique written visual novel I've ever played. Now, don't get me wrong, I do read things wrong on my own from time to time, but a good amount of sentences in this game like legitimately make no sense unless you read it multiple times. Like, you gotta think about it for it to make sense. Now, some of you, like, really smart people might not get that, but when you write a visual novel, you want to write it in a way that casual readers will get it the first time they read it, to not having to read it multiple times. Like, this visual novel tries so hard to seem very smart and, like, but it just ends up making the reader confused. You're just confusing people. Stop trying to be something you're not. This is 100% for people who are more, whatever. Well, that's not a healthy line of thought. Parents can be more forgiving than you think. Mine trusts me to keep Kobe in line, but he also keeps me from staying sad for too long. They knew we were a good fit when we all started living together. Maybe you just haven't given yours enough time to come to terms with your choices. Maybe so. I suppose if I'm not great at reading people, I may not have been good at reading them. Goodness knows, once college started, I all but vanished from their lives. If I may, you do seem to get lost in your own head. You can't have experienced anything yet, so you can't expect to know everything either. Well, before we go too deep into a depressive pit, I think we should change the subject. Fair enough. Did you give any more thought to getting your stuff published? I thought you might have forgotten about the suggestion, no? I haven't really been looking into places to publish. Well, why not? This in particular is some of your best work. You need to at least put yourself out there and give it a try. I wouldn't even know where to begin. This is the first substantial piece I've written since I graduated. I don't even know if it's any good. What about self-publishing? If you're concerned about getting picked up, why not just self-publish? I hear it's super easy now. It is, but it's flooded with everyone else who wants to be a writer. I'd be fighting against hundreds, if not thousands of other people without so much to make me stand out. Believe me, your writing stands out. Kobe's the least bookish person I know, and he couldn't put it down. Thanks, but even if it is good, it'll be buried in a sea of other books. It'd help if someone with some visibility could boost it or plug it, which brings me back to square one. I couldn't bear to see him giving up so soon after accomplishing so much. We talked for a while longer, glancing at the manuscript and back at each other until I remembered. What about the author we saw? Nick? We could talk to him. He was mentioning that he had another reading sometime soon. You've got to be kidding! I mean, he probably gets swarmed with fans wanting him to prove their stories. Why would he give me the time of day? Because it's a start. Just like with writing, you've got to take a chance and put words down on a blank page. Worst he'll do is say no, and I'll buy another copy of his book so he doesn't eject us. Us? You're coming with me? Of course, I got you inspired enough to write all that. The least I can do is be there to try and help you make something of it. His eyes went wide for a moment, his lip trembling cutely as he stared at me. In a moment, he was on top of me, hugging me tightly and burying his face in my neck. It took a moment, in the rather awkward rush as he pressed onto my lap before he slipped off me, seeming to realize that he'd practically tackled me onto my bed. Then let's do this. Come hell or high water, I'm going to see my name in print. I smiled broadly. He seemed most in himself when he was excited, and I was growing to enjoy that about him more and more. We checked the library schedule and found out where the next reading was. If we left the house immediately, we could just make it. We said our goodbyes to Kobe, leaving him with a cup of coffee and a confused look before jumping in the car. We were both nervous. Seth spent the trip looking out the window and then back at the pile of papers in his lap. I caught myself glancing over at him now and again, hoping that I wasn't setting him up for failure. We made it to the library just at the tail end of the reading. Again, there was a table out front for signings, and after enough people had filtered out and away from the lobby, we walked up. Hi, thanks for coming. Hey, you made it. Glad to see I was convincing enough to get you to return. Seth stood there, quivering, blushing, and completely unable to speak. Once the author's face shifted to a concerned look, I knew I had to do something. Teach a man to, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. Nudge Seth. I nudged Seth forward, motioning for him to start talking. It took a moment before he could find his voice. So, I wrote something? The author raised an eyebrow before leaning back in his seat. That's good. I don't mean to be dismissive. I'm glad to see people writing and especially reading, but was there a reason to tell me this? Seth's voice squeaked for a moment as his eyes darted back at me. I gave him a confident smile and motioned forward. After taking a breath, Seth thrust out his hand with the manuscript in them. I was inspired to write this book and I was told it's pretty good and we should come here to talk to you about it. I mean, I wanted some advice on the next steps I should take if I want to see this published. The author sighed to himself for a moment before looking back up to Seth. I get 100 enthusiastic writers trying to ply me with buying copies of my book or giving me gifts to get me to read their work. There's a reason publishers have slush piles, you know. Convinced Seth to speak up for himself. I looked other to say exactly. Not this legitimately. I didn't realize when I was playing this like 2 years ago, the writing in this game is atrocious. Now, I'm not a vocabulary wizard, but it's like you misspell so many words. You keep writing down sentences that you have to legit think about to understand the meaning of it. Are you expecting all people who play this game, who a majority of them just want this, like, are you just like, you know, they're only here for the sex scenes, might as well just make the writing atrocious. What the oh man, I'm just now realizing how bad this writing is. I looked over to Seth and nodded my head in the author's direction. I knew if he really wanted to do this, he'd need to speak up for himself. God damn it. Just god damn it. I know I've read the horror stories about slush piles, agent fees, and publishing in general. It's been part of what kept me from sitting down to write. I don't expect much, just a glance or some advice. I'm sure you know how difficult it is for new writers. I remember you talking about it in your memoir. It was a difficult time, getting noticed enough to actually snag a publishing contract. Even then, I still have to stay relevant, go to signings and readings. It's hard work. I know, that's why I'm willing to take the risk, because someone believes in me, and that's a start. Seth glanced back at me with a smile, his tail flickering against my hip. The author chuckled and held out his hand. Alright, first 3 pages. You got a few minutes of my time, and I'm not pulling any punches. Of course. Seth's eyes went wide as the author took the pages offered and began to browse. I patted him gently on the shoulder and went to sit down, letting my body calm down from the high. As I glanced back over, the two of them were having a spirited conversation. The author seemed particularly animated and was smiling. A wave of relief rolled over me. Alright, I'll give you a call soon. I had zoned out for most of the conversation, but perked back up when Seth came over, nearly vibrating with joy. He liked it! He actually liked it! He said it was rough, which I expected being a first draft, but he was going to take the first chapter to his agent. See, it's worth it to take a risk every now and again. You're more than just amused, you're like my guardian angel. Flattery will get you everywhere. I do prefer to think of myself as an angelic being of infinite grace and beauty. Seth chuckled and gave me another tight squeeze. I'll shout it from the rooftops at this point, even if I don't hear back. We need to celebrate, drinks, dancing. I know just the place. It was still too early to go to the club, so we decided to swing back to my place. Seth was animated like I'd never seen him before. His head was... His head is flooded with possibilities, hopes, and dreams about what this could mean. I was glad to see him happy, and did enjoy some basking in his adulation, but I also remembered what Nick had said about the hours, the travel selling himself at stores. What if this dream meant the end of this with us? It's called He Can Take You With Him. I don't know why you're worrying about that. I mean, if you're in a relationship, you know, living together doesn't seem that out of the question. You could also, you know, he could hire you as like an assistant too, so you know you could help him get his work done faster by bringing him a coffee now and again, or maybe just his secretary, you know, taking calls and giving blowjobs under the desk. But whatever. Seth's enthusiasm didn't stop even after we walked through the door. The instant he saw Kobe, he scooped him up in a hug. I think it was the first time I ever saw my little bro turn that purple. My goodness, I don't think I've ever felt this energized. I'm glad to hear it. We can hang out here for a while and then all three of us can hit the club. We can have a couple drinks, dance a little. Maybe pick up a guy. That's all you, bro. That sounds fantastic. Look at me. I've never danced before in my life and I'm giddy at the thought of making an ass of myself. Haha, that's the spirit, Seth. Maybe I should sit down for a moment. My head is still reeling from all this. We've got plenty of time. Why don't you go lie down for a bit? I've got a few things to do around the house. I'll check in a few minutes. Thank you again, Aura. You're the most gracious host. He's a cutie, Aura, and a good hugger. Hey now, hands off. I saw him first. I also may have helped launch his dream career, so... Maybe he's the maybe he's the one giving the blowjob under the desk. I'm just saying... I bit my tongue again. Ow, he's all yours. It's pretty clear he's really into you. I chuckled as I slid out of my coat. There were still a few things to do if we were going out tonight. I wondered if I should get to them or check up on Seth. Finish chores first. Be a responsible human being. My responsibility got the better of me and I started in on the chores I'd been neglecting. Kobe took this as his cue to leave, ducking out the door before I could ask him to help out. Hey, thanks for the chores. I almost forgot. I'm meeting someone for coffee before the club anyway. It never seemed to really work out well, being the practical one of the two of us, still left to my own devices. I made short work of the dishes and the cleaning. It wasn't long before the sun had begun to dip in the sky. I hadn't heard a peep out of Seth despite my activity out front. I took off the latex gloves I've been using and left them on the counter as I peeked into the bedroom. Maybe knock first? Clearly Seth had overestimated his stamina. He was out cold and snoring softly. Let him sleep. Multiple days in a row of riding seemingly with little sleep had clearly been tough on him. I know he wanted to celebrate, but maybe what he really needs is rest. I must have dozed off for a second myself because when my eyes flickered open, Seth was stretching and yawning as he got back to his feet. Oof, what happened? You fell asleep about 5 hours ago in Kobe's bed, no less, which makes you one of the few people to just sleep in it, besides him. I guess I was more exhausted than I thought. Sorry, I wasn't more fun tonight. It's alright, we had an exciting day. That, and I much prefer sleeping in the same room as you to not hearing from you. Aura? As I sat on the edge of my bed, Seth patted softly over to me, draping his arms around me. He slid smoothly into my lap and pressed his lips firmly but gently against my own. We held each other in that moment, cloaked in darkness and on such a silent night, just keeping close and safe in each other's arms. When the kiss finally broke reluctantly on both our ends, Seth smiled down at me and rested his head on my shoulder for a moment before slowly sliding back out of my lap. That's my way of saying thank you. Saying thank you. Thank you for humoring me, pushing me, and most of all for being willing to put up with my vanishing. Not many other people would be willing to take someone back after that. I'm not most people, Seth, and if that kiss was any indication, you are certainly worth waiting for. You are such a flatterer. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm up for much more tonight. That full-body giddy high I was on has faded and my body is threatening to rebel against my currently vertical position. Let me take you home. Let me drive you home then. I wouldn't want you to pass out on the way and get in an accident. It's alright. It's not that far from and the traffic will be light. Besides, my place is an absolute pigsty right now, and I couldn't bear to have you see that. I have a lukewarm coffee in the car. Only if you are absolutely sure. I am. Fair warning though, keep your schedule clear. I intend to make up for these half-hearted dates with something spectacular. I look forward to it. I can't wait to see what you might have planned. Just make sure to pull out all the stops. I assure you, not a single stop will remain unpulled in my entire apartment. He gathered his things together and after another peck on the cheek goodbye, made his way out the door. Doubt still lingered about Seth's book. It brought us together for a moment, but I couldn't help worrying it might also break us apart. Then again, that's what dating was all about, it seems. Being willing to put yourself out there and take a chance, then you can make a connection. It's not like I was seeing him for free lunches and attention. This was clearly important to him. Congratulations, you've unlocked the achievement! Well, anyway, guys, this was a dumpster fire recording. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed episode 30 of Amorous. And join me for the next and final episode later. Peace off.
Hello, Lucara here. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more, check out our previous video here. Or, if you'd like to support the channel, check out our Patreon here. There's also a video that was picked up by YouTube just for you. And lastly, you can click here to subscribe. We'll see you lovelies in the next video. Peace off.